the trio like the artist.
Happy Monday and welcome to Stammerun with me, John. So today we're going to be looking at my CBT and we're going to be talking about it, and I'm going to take you through what it looks like every Monday. So let's see how we get on. So before the meeting starts, CBT has been really helpful to me. So let's see how you think and how you feel about it, and just to give you an insight into what happens on a CBT session. Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
I can. Good morning.
Good morning, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, thank you. Just is my let me see if I can get my camera on.
Oh, there we go. Yep.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that is better. How was your weekend?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. How was yours?
Yeah, it went really quick. It always goes so super fast, doesn't it? It's like Friday comes and it's like boom.
Exactly. It is then like you think then you've got the whole of like you've got 2 days, and then it just flies by. Take it for granted, I think.
Really does, yeah. It really does. How did you get on with some of the stuff that we'd spoken about last week?
So my tasks last week were to go around and ask people stuff, or just talk, and that stammer voice that's in my head that says that you're going to stammer. Let's see what happens, effectively. So pretty much every single day, I did stuff, and I went to the school and I asked stuff at school, and I went to the shops. Weekend with the girls, I normally, say for example, would order tickets online. We ask for the tickets, and I pay for the tickets and that kind of stuff. So I don't necessarily order stuff online because I don't like speaking. Sometimes I just order things online because it's too easy. So I thought, let's not make it easy and let's try like old school ways. So I decided to, and it was all right. It was fun. Absolutely fun.
Good. So any of your fears or worries manifest in any way?
So I think the first time round, because I was thinking about it more the first time round, I was a bit like, right, okay. So what I tend to do is I tend to recite what I'm going to say in like my own head first, or I'll have a foot tap. So I'll tap my foot. So I think with me, a stammer sometimes can be quite a physical thing. So as long as I'm doing something, I know this sounds strange, but as long as I feel like I'm touching something or doing something, I can get over that. I just need that physical, like I can explain that. Sometimes it need that physical force I feel like I need to push it out, and then you get that kind of like that sort of it's like a blocker, right? And then you just need I guess for me, it's like that initial block. So it's like I have this like cork, right? And everything's prepared and wants to come out, but I need to then get that cork out. And once it's out and I feel like I'm relieved, then I'm fine. But it's always that initial bit. So initially, it was that kind of stuff, but then I was absolutely fine. And I guess, I know it sounds strange, but I guess I'm more confident when I'm with my children, because I have to be dad. So like my mind switches round. So I'm then dad, and then it means that, I have to be the one who asks for things. I have to be the one who leads. And I guess I'm more comfortable in that respect. So as soon as I can switch to dad mode, then absolutely fine, like perfectly fine.
That's interesting, actually. That's an interesting thing, actually, concept. So the initial having to have that conversation feels quite anxiety, but once you started it, actually it feels okay.
Yes.
What would you say that you learned from What would you say you've learned? What's your takeaway learning point? Would you say?
I think the takeaway from that learning point is that, like, I can talk. Like, I don't actually stammer that much. Like, in terms of an everyday conversation, I don't necessarily think I stammer more than anybody else. So what I mean by that is like, we went to some family on Sunday, and I'm very in tune. Like, I always listen to how people speak, and it's something that, like, I've always done as a comparison thing, because I guess where I've tried to
imitate other people,
or train my speech, I then tried to compare the two, and I in my head everybody speaks fluently, perfectly, all of the time, when reality-wise people don't.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm starting to learn that yes, I do, even though sometimes the fluency is there. Maybe I don't stammer as much as I think I do, and a lot of it is anxiety based, and it's a case of I'm scared of what I could potentially do, and it does happen. It does happen, but is it the end of the world? And it's me. I almost go into situations, I catastrophize every situation because I think the worst is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. But what do you know?
I know now that that's not always the case.
Yeah. And I think there's two very valid points that you raised. It's not as bad as you think it's going to be, and even if it does happen, it's okay. So I think those are two very valid key things I want you to always remember, I think, and take forward when you do have these conversations, because the reality of it is you do have some sort of stammer, and we don't want to say it's never going to happen, because it might be, but it does happen, and it's going to be unexpected, maybe far in between, and if it does happen, it's actually okay.
Yeah, agreed. And again, it's like, I guess I have the best way to think about it, I guess, for me is like, so if I was to hear someone else with a stammer, I wouldn't think anything bad. Like, I would, I understand. So, I wouldn't think anything bad, and they could have the time, and I'd allow them to talk and to speak, and I would be quite I'd be very respectful, and because I kind of understand. Or if it was like anything else, right? I have sympathy and apathy for other people, but just not for myself. And I guess I almost project the bad side of myself onto other people.
And therefore think other people are kind of viewing you in that particular way when they're
exactly.
Yeah. That's good. So the question is, how can you continue building on this ultimately? Because I think these are very valid and important lessons and experience obviously developed over the last week, even prior to that. So how can you continue to build on what you've learned so far? What do you need to do to be able to take it, to be able to continue learning some of these and reinforcing some of these learning points?
I think I need to be honest with myself. I think I need to be honest with other people. I need to just not try to be something I'm not. And what I mean by that is there are going to be days where I struggle potentially, and particularly with the other things as well, like there are days where I just don't feel great, and I don't want to talk, or, just it's almost acceptance, right? And it's just keep on, continuing to speak and just accept who I am, and that's probably been one of the hardest things for me to do, is just go, for me to continue, I need to almost not, if it happens, then it happens, but it's kind of just, it's really hard, because the one thing that I will say that I will find hard is that, so if I stammered before, then I'd be in like my own head, and I'd go to like a low place, but I need to find a mechanism which enables me to be able to stammer, but then maybe talk about it, or be able to like maybe talk to my other half and go, look, this is what happened today. Because I feel like for me to phase to the next bit, I almost need to break, like, I need to break the cycle of, if I stammer, I'm in my own head because I'm no good for me. So I do need that. I do need a different way to be able to deal with that, almost. So, I don't know, it could be just like a tiny stammer. It may, you know, I may be able to accept it, but if I've had like a bad day or like I'm tired, I may automatically go back to that dark place and go, you're kind of worthless again. So I kind of need a way to be able to not do that and be able to go, right, okay, well, what can I do to stop me from doing that and then break that habit?
Okay, so let's think about what is your usual, so when that happens, what's your default?
My default position is, you're crap. I can't believe this still happens. Yeah. You know, and then probably I'd probably say in the last couple of years I've got okay with it, but I think my biggest fear is professionally. That's probably my biggest thing is that if I can accept it and deal with it in a professional way, at work, then I think I would probably be better overall.
Okay, so your default is to automatically think, here we go again, you're not good enough, something wrong with you.
Correct.
The default. So we need to try and change that internal dialogue. So we know that doesn't help the situation or the scenario. So what could you do differently, do you think? Just for our ideas, we're not suggesting that we're going to do that, but what other things might you, or what would you advise somebody to do, for example, if that does happen?
That's a very good question, actually. You know, I think the best advice is that, you know, you can't. It's something that you can't help, right? So, you know, it's okay. You're gonna, you know, and you can't help how you feel at times because, you know, but you know, it's almost like you kind of. It's really hard for me to say because the positives are that, like, you are resilient and you go again, and, you know, stammer doesn't necessarily define who you are from that respect, and I completely understand that bit. But from a negative perspective, like for me, so I can't, you know, like the positives for a stammer in terms of a workplace, I can't actually think of any. Like I wouldn't know what to say to, you know, like if a person is out and, you know, you could just be like, you know, yeah, it's fine, it's okay, you know, understand that, like, you work hard at it and it's a really difficult thing to have to deal with, right? But for me, from a personal perspective at work, if it was to happen at work, right, and I was on a call and I could feel people eyes on me, like, I don't know. I guess that's the bit that I'm missing, is that I don't know what to do. Like, I just don't know. Like, from an outside perspective, like outside of work and stuff like that, you know, I could be like, you know, fine, it's happened, we can continue, you know, it's good. But at work, I feel like I'm being judged, and I think that's probably what it is. I think it's like your reputation, I think, for me, particularly with what I do, is like everything. And it's a case of, like, I don't know how to deal with it. I just don't know.
So that's quite interesting, because you don't know how to deal with that idea, that feeling of people judging you in that particular moment, and maybe you don't know how to deal with it because actually no one is judging you. So that
true. Yeah.
That could be a thing. Now, you mentioned it feels like, so you feel like people are kind of, the eyes are on you. That's what it feels like.
Yes, correct. Mm-hmm.
So if I had a video recorder or camcorder in the room, are you certain that, let's say you're on a call and you did stammer, are you certain that everyone's going to turn and look at you in that video? Is that what we're seeing? Can you?
In my mental image,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So it's just more of an idea that you get rather than a fact that this is what happened.
I have experienced it a couple of times, to be fair, like from practical experience. But then again, it depends on person to person. I have worked like in a professional capacity with people who make it awkward, not on purpose, but just by the personality types that they are. They just want to get things done, but because they don't know, or because I've tried to hide it, they don't necessarily know that I stammered. So maybe they would have given me more time or been different. But I fully accept that the industry that I'm in, and I fully accept this, is that people are going to be like that, and they are like that, and it's not a dig, and it's not a I'm not casting aspersions on people, but the nature of what I do and the nature of people, there are people, unfortunately, who are like that, and that's, I guess, the same as everyone else, so it's a case of when that does happen, and I know that not everybody's going to be like that, but there will be people. I need to be able to deal with that. Like, I need to be able to deal with the fact that it's something that I do, but it's your problem and not mine. So it's a case of, how do I deal with that bit? That's the bit that I need to be able to handle, is that if it does happen, it happens, but I shouldn't be in a position where I destroy myself for something that I can't always control. So how do I deal with that? Basically is the question.
Yeah, so I guess you want to know how to deal with that, but let's go back a few steps. So it has happened before in the past.
Yeah.
Handful of times, more than a handful of times?
More than a handful of times.
Yeah, okay. So it has happened more than a handful of times, and in comparison to how many times you think it's happening versus how many times it's happened, what would you say weighs more?
I would say probably in the last couple of years, probably a lot less. So I'd probably say the times it doesn't happen like vastly outstrips the times that it does happen.
Okay, that's fine. So, but it does happen, is what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I guess, but in your mind, you think every time that you do stammer, it's going to happen.
Yes.
Your mind is suggesting, because it has happened in the past. How have you dealt with the times when it has happened?
So, give you an example. So, I sort of know that it's about to sort of happen. So what I do is I'll do something like I'll pretend to sneeze, right? Because I need something physical to happen for me to get it out, right? So the reason for that, I guess, is because so when you have a block, right? So it's called a block. It's like you physically can't get a word out, right? And it can kind of happen at the most inane times, right? And I need something physical to be able to get it out. So, I'll pretend to sneeze just so I can just sneeze and then, so I've done that quite a few times. And then people kind of laugh. And then when people laugh, I kind of feel a bit more comfortable. And then maybe in a meeting, so say for example, I start to talk about stuff and I'm absolutely fine. Then what might then happen is if I maybe stammer on a word, say, and it's not really, but it's not more than anybody else, for example. But then I'll start thinking about it, and then when I'm in kind of like mid-flow, I'll start to think about it, and then that puts me off my flow, and then I'm kind of like then thinking about it, and then it kind of like almost then kind of like I then kind of like lose thought, and I will almost go into like a rabbit in like headlights state. So even though I could start off fine and I'll be absolutely fine, the moment I think somebody's not engaged, or I think that I'm kind of losing it, then the kind of like my mind goes into like that, oh god, like panic mode, the kind of flight mode, I guess.
Yeah, and obviously you do that as for a reason. And let's go back a few steps again. So what's the reason that you're doing that? You're thinking that they're going to judge you in a negative way. That's the thought process.
Yeah,
around.
correct. Yes.
Okay, and when you think about them judging you, what is it that what does that judgment look like, and what's the consequences what's the result of that judgment?
So I guess for me is I don't want people to think that I am less of a person.
Okay.
I guess I guess because I've worked hard to get to where I am, and I know it sounds really, really strange, but like when I was a kid, like I never thought I'd move to London, like have a job in the industry that I'm sort of in, and be able to talk to people. And like when I was about 11 or 12, like I was just like I just wish that I could just talk and just be able to have like a normal life, right? So I kind of worked really, really hard to get that, and then I almost feel like if it happens, people will look at me in like another way. I'll like lose my job. So again, it's that I catastrophize about all the things, because I guess I feel like a bit of a fraud. Like I've always kind of felt in that way, but I always feel like everything's like a cliff edge away from falling apart.
And has that ever happened? So, you mentioned around what you think, you're actually stammering, and you have so many people having it. The judgment part of it, has that happened?
The judgment part has happened a couple of times, but for example, at an appraisal at work, for example, like I know I have missed opportunities because people think I'm nervous. Yeah. Not because of my actual quality of work, but just because of my of that bit, and I guess the standoffishness. But again, I don't necessarily blame the workplace because they didn't know. So is it them that's stopping me, or is it me that's stopping me?
Okay, so when we think about the outcome, in the appraisal, what was the outcome? Was the outcome?
So the outcome wasn't bad. It was just things that you need to improve upon. Is your to be able to present. Like for example, it was your content is absolutely fine. You're really good in the team, but we just don't understand. I just don't understand why you're as nervous as you are.
Mm-hmm. So was that down to the fact that they had seen you stammering a few times as to why they're then giving that feedback? Because I guess I'm trying to understand.
Yeah. So I guess I probably come across more nervous rather than stammering, if that makes sense. So even though I probably did stammer, in their mind, that's somebody who's nervous, I guess.
So did they give you so let's say, for example, you were on a call on last week Friday.
Yeah.
Were they able to say, okay, that last week Friday when you were on a call?
Yeah, yes.
So they point out those stammering moments as to what...
Correct, yes.
Okay. And from that, then they was giving you that feedback in terms of what you need to kind of work on.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of what was the outcome? And the outcome was just, okay, this is what we need you to work on, and you need to go and work on that. Was that what the outcome was?
Well, it was a case of wasn't so much in that way. It was just more of a that's the thing that's the thing that we think that you need to sort of think about. But other than that, everything else is sort of fine. But there was no way to measure that, I guess. So there was no way to go, how do you measure somebody who's confident, who's somebody who's not? So, it's quite interesting because, in front of the team, in my team, absolutely fun to present, and that was fine. But the moment then I don't know somebody, I almost feel like, are they going to judge me? And that's the bit that I guess is the crux of it. As soon as I know a person and they kind of know me, I'm absolutely fine. But it's just that it's almost not fair, because I don't necessarily give them that initial chance. So I'm conveying all my past, all my negative experiences on other people, because I guess I'm trying to protect myself, and I put it all onto them and project. I sort of almost trying to tell them what to think when so I guess previously I've just never given people an opportunity to show me that people are not like that.
And also as well, I think if we just go back as well, I think you mentioned that they see your stammering as you're nervous, but actually if it's something that you've shown them from the get-go, they wouldn't necessarily see that as
exactly.
That this is who he is, right?
Yeah.
And actually, even though he stammers, it's not like he's nervous, it's just the stammering that he has. So actually it's also become a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you're trying to prevent them from seeing something. They see it, then they misinterpret it, and then actually you start becoming worried and think, oh God, see, they think I'm not good enough, but actually it's not like they don't think maybe you're not good enough, it's just that they just don't see that side of you, because you're clearly not allowing them to see that. So I think, in saying that, what do you think? Because I guess on one hand you're trying to think, how do I manage this? But actually, back a few steps, how do you manage it? What is there to manage here?
Exactly. No, and that's a good point. It's such a it's true. I'm trying to manage something that probably doesn't need to be managed. But again, because of, I guess, what I've learned up to this point, it's a pattern of things I've learned to do to cope with, or what I've perceived to learn to do to get by. It's a learned thing, isn't it?
So then if you've learned that to get by, and actually it doesn't seem like we need it, so then what do you need to do anything? Is there anything you need to do to be able to cope with the situation?
Probably not. I almost need to I almost feel like I need to unburden myself in some respects, like to take the weight off of my shoulders, and I need to stop trying to fix something that, why does it need to be fixed? It's a really, and I guess that's what I'd say to other people. That's exactly what I'd say to other people, right? As much as you may feel embarrassed at times, and as much as you feel like, the world is kind of like, has its eyes on you, right? Why do you need to fix yourself? Like, you are who you are. Like, I will always say this, right, is that people that stammer and really, I'm in some respects, I feel like I'm fortunate, and through hard work, that I'm able to communicate as well as I sort of try to do. And there are people who can't, and they're amazing. I literally have no idea, like, how they get on with, like, they're so resilient, they're so, to be able just to do the things that they do, I think it's amazing. and they shouldn't have to fix themselves. Like, well, why should they have to fix themselves? They're fine. They're fine as who they are.
What is there to fix?
Yeah, there's nothing to fix.
If I've got I don't know, let's say, I'm trying to think of an example, something. Let's say I've got a limp, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? One leg's shorter than another, and I've got a limp. So, and I'm to fix myself. What do I need to fix if I was born like that?
Nothing. Well, you don't need to fix anything.
Yeah, because that's just the way I was born, right?
Yeah.
So, again, I think it sounds like the reason why you don't know what to do is because you're trying to fix something that doesn't need to be fixed. It's about acceptance, isn't it? Actually, this is who I am, and I need to accept that. And I think that's probably what we need to work on, accepting. And also, you mentioned when you do stammer, the way you see it. So your thought process, automatic, seeing it in a negative way. So actually, I think you need to change your perception of how you see stammering. It's not a bad thing. It's not. It's rather than thinking, oh God, I'm going to be judged. I'm going to lose my job, or I'm less than, or I'm a failure. How can you interpret it instead?
But the strange thing is that it's only how I stammer. It's not stammering in the whole, because I think I think people that are amazing. It's just personal to me. It's that me bit. It's that if I was I meet other people who like have a stammer, and again, I have nothing but respect, and because I completely understand. But when it comes to me, I just don't have that same. I just can't have that same level of like it's not your fault, and that's the bit that I struggle with.
But maybe it's about building up that compassion towards yourself, because actually you're able to give that compassion to other people, but you struggle to give that compassion to yourself. So we need to help you to be able to give yourself that compassion, because you're not compassionate towards yourself. How you stammer is different to how other people stammer. So therefore, there's something ultimately wrong with you in that sense.
And also as well, one of the things that has always sort of stopped me from speaking about it as well is because I don't want people to pity me, or like people have a habit of just because they're trying to be they're almost trying to be not nice, but they are, and the way that they sort of handle it is like they are, or I remember when I was about 18 and I stammered, and it was quite bad then, and I can't remember, but somebody, and I was out, and I think I was about 18 and I was out in a club, right? And somebody come up to me and she was like, oh, so good that, like you're able to come here with that and you can't talk, and I think it's amazing. And I was just like, the whole time I was thinking, I'm 18 years old, I'm in a club, and all I now want to do is just die. Like, I'm just like, oh my God. But it's that like pity bit, like, I don't want people to think they have to think like I'm great because like I can speak, or like or it's really good. I'm just like I don't need like it doesn't. I like that's something that I don't need. Like I don't need pity. I don't need people. I just don't want to tell people. And people go, oh, like that's I just can't deal with that side of it. And I think we spoke about this before, and the sort of praise aspect of it. It's just like, I almost don't want people to say anything about it. I just want people to go, all right, okay, fine, cool. Like, just, like the best example of that is my other half. Like, she just cracks on with it. She's just like, yeah, you're still a dick. Like, and I sort of need just that. People just to almost just be like, okay, fine, it's cool. Like, we know that you can have the time, but yeah, it's not a.
Well, I guess the one thing that we don't have control over is people's reactions and what they think.
Exactly that. And again, I don't necessarily blame people for, you know, who they are. Like, you know, I may project myself onto other people, but then if people react in the way I think they will, I don't necessarily attach any sort of feeling towards that if it's towards me. If it was towards other people, then I'd have a problem. But when it's attached to me, I'm just like, oh, okay, well, fine. So it's quite complex.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I still think it's about working on that compassionate side of things for you, because, you know, there is a lot of, and also again, there's a lot of experiences that you've had that you're then taking into the future and thinking, well, I don't want other people to do this. And like you said, I think you mentioned that before, you're not even giving other people a chance to be who they are. You want to kind of painting them with the same brush that you had from when you were